Hey Hisham. Hey Mom.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for joining.
No problem. Thanks for inviting. Thanks.
Hello.
Hey Hisham.
Oh, good, good. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Hisham. How are you?
I'm very good.
So this time again, Hisham, hopefully we'll have like few more people and I would like to present the idea of AOS. And let's see. I'm hoping more people will join today this time. Yeah, we'll just give it a couple of more minutes. Let's see.
We started the discussion in WhatsApp,
Yeah,
so hopefully people will get excited.
yeah. But that's what I'm hoping to.
Did you get? I don't know what happened to my calendar, Anchor. Something weird for my meeting on June 2nd about quantum stuff.
Right. Okay.
Did you receive an updated calendar invite? Look at your inbox, please.
Yeah, I just saw that 9:51 today I got the updated invite.
Why? I don't know how that happened.
Oh, that was not you triggering that? It
No,
was
no, I did something, but
oh,
anyway, it's a long story. So
okay.
you already accepted. Do you need to accept again? I don't know.
No, no, it is I've already accepted it. Yeah. So it is not
Got it,
asking me to
got it,
accept.
got it. So let me look at my calendar invite.
Yeah, so Hisham, I don't get many of these things. I had to ask Ankur to send it. I don't have anything for June 2nd. So,
Really?
no, I mean, maybe I'm not on the mailing list or something.
Yeah,
Are
that could be
you
the
are you
reason.
in OCB tab?
I don't know. Let me check. I'll check.
No, wow. Let me check
Yeah.
my calendar.
This
It
this
says it says here June 2nd. June 2nd. Uh, 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 uh. uh. Yeah, still 36 accepted. So you're right, Anchor. You
yeah.
don't need to accept it. It's accepted. I don't know. My calendar got really messed up last night, and I don't know what happened. So if you are an OCB tab imam, then you should get it because I invite OCB tab. I invite other groups, but OCB tab is invited too.
Okay.
Do you attend the Ahmed OCB tab meeting?
Oh, no. No,
Ah,
I didn't get anything.
yeah. So you should go to this one or go. The other group is networking, and there is quantum group in OCB. I
Okay.
invite OCB tab as a courtesy, because of WhatsApp, but
hmm hmm
the topic really has to do with quantum, and there is a quantum group in
Yeah,
OCB,
that I'm part of.
the one
Oh,
from
it's separate
Boniface.
under OCP.
Boniface.
Okay.
That's not under OCB tab. You're right, but that is Boniface, right?
Uh, yeah, I'm in the quantum computing and communications. Uh,
This is in OCB.
no, just a separate one.
It's in OCB. Not OCB.
Not OCP, no.
Oh no,
I let me. I'll work with Ankur. Maybe Ankur, you can show me which.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Anchor is in OCB tab for sure.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
I will work
Yeah,
with you,
yeah.
Ankur.
There is also OCB TSIAW, which is under OCB tab. If you are member, I started to invite people there also.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah, the best thing is that Imam, I'll work with you to add you to TAP.
Exactly,
That will,
exactly,
yeah, because all the invites go to OCP tap.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
exactly. I always I mean like in the same week, on June 4th, there was a meeting I organized about distributed reliability of AI systems, the reliability of distributed AI systems. And that is only for OCB AI groups, but I invite OCB tab as a courtesy, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I'm wondering if like other people
No,
are the same. They're not seeing the invites also. Isham, I
I,
don't know.
I don't really know. Good point. You reminded me. I didn't invite OCB tab for June 4th meeting. I should invite. I should do that. Okay, good. I'm glad I got reminded. Because I organize many meetings and sometimes I invite OCB tab. Most of the time I do. In case somebody's interested, you know?
Yeah.
But it is not intended for OCB tab actually. Because I'm a member of many groups in OCB. But what happened last night was really a miracle. I don't know how that happened. They convert David is not coming. Professor David is not coming.
No, he said he has some university event, so he cannot make it. He told me to sync up next week on this topic.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
but
have
I see Gregory has joined, Deep has joined. Hey guys, thanks for joining.
Yeah, Uncle. Hi, guys. My first
Deep.
time in the meeting.
Oh, welcome.
That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
So, Uncle, now you changed the topic to be not observability, but AOS, right?
Today, yes. So what I've done is, so previously every 2 weeks we were meeting just for the observability, the causality issue with AI
Ah,
pipelines. Now I've d done it alternate. So every other meeting will meet for AOS topic,
got it,
and then
got
the
it,
other will meet for
got it.
causality.
Same time, it is just the topic it changes
Just the
every
topic changes every
yeah,
time. Yes.
which boils down to each one of them will be presented once a month.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, if we start more work streams in under UII, or I mean, start more projects, then I might think of doing it every week, but on different topics. So again, it will be like once per topic per month, but like definitely there are more projects which a couple of other people have reached out. They want to start discussing and working on those projects. So there is a possibility we might add a couple of more project streams.
Excellent.
Okay, I guess we can get started. If anybody else joins later, we can. So at least we have uh, a few people to collect some thoughts and feedback. And again, let me share my screen and we'll get started. So, and feel free to, this is for Gregory and Deep, you already know. So, Imam, since you have joined this meeting as well, first time, so this is like the whole idea of this discussion is this is a collaboration and open meeting. We discuss what we are planning to do, what is the thought, what is the vision. It's an open project, and then we like people to at least provide feedback. And then if they also want to contribute in development and coding, like Deep has been helping me in a lot of coding activities in the other project, the causality of AI pipelines project. And Hesham has been very, very helpful in providing the feedback from the industry, finding some relevant papers, a lot of things. So it's a very open forum. Any feedback, any questions, any collaboration, help, everything is totally welcome. And we would love to work with all of you guys. So previously in this work stream, we were mainly just focusing on the first project, which was, how do we identify causality in AI pipelines? But like I was saying earlier, like we have started another project this time. This is a project that I've been working on for a while now, but I thought like, this is a perfect opportunity to bring this to OCP as well, and take inputs and feedback from community and build it in the right way. So let me share my screen and I'll start presenting, but feel free to interrupt anytime for any questions or feedback. uh, a second. Sorry, 1 second. uh Sorry, I may have to just quit my Zoom and join back. Give me 1 second. Sorry, this is a new laptop. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let me share the screen. Okay, let me know when you guys see my screen.
Yeah, we see your screen.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Okay. So, the idea that why I like the idea for agent operating system, if you see there are a lot of things happening in the industry and community. Some people call it AIOS, some people call it agent operating system. But this whole presentation, what I'm going to do or give you guys today is what I am thinking, and I have some slides which basically will compare with the current options that are in market, what they are doing, and how what I'm thinking it differently. So let's get into that one. So at a very high level, it's how I define it in single line is it's a portable distributed control plane that provides operating system like primitives for enterprise agentic systems. So how let's go next slide and then I'll talk about the rest. So over last couple of years, AI systems have evolved far beyond some simple model interactions. Earlier systems were mostly single model and pipeline oriented, where execution paths were relatively predictable and easier to reason about. So you typically had a request, a model, invocation, and a response. So even when systems become more advanced, they were still largely deterministic and relatively centralized in how they operated. So what we are seeing now is fundamentally different. Modern AI systems increasingly involve multiple agents collaborating dynamically, invoking tools and APIs at runtime, accessing external knowledge sources and adapting behavior based on context and intermediate results. So execution is no longer linear or static. Instead, its systems are becoming event-driven, distributed, and decision-oriented. So the other shift, major shift, I would say, is that execution is happening across heterogeneous environments. Different parts of the workflow may execute across cloud providers, enterprise APIs, MCP servers, A2A interactions, edge systems, external services, internal workflows. So what is happening is, as a result, these systems increasingly resemble distributed systems more than traditional applications. And at the same time, decision making itself is becoming part of the runtime behavior, and agents are no longer just executing predefined instruction. They are actively deciding which capability to invoke, which path to take, whether to retry, whether to escalate, how to interpret context, and how to coordinate with other agents. So this creates powerful new capabilities, but it also introduces many classic distributed system challenges. Things like coordination, observability, trust, policy enforcement, failure handling, state management, auditability. So all these, basically the key point here is that the challenge is no longer only about the model intelligence. Like models are good, but as these systems become increasingly distributed and agent driven, the problem increasingly becomes how to govern, coordinate, and trust execution across complex enterprise environments. So that's the whole idea, motivation, and the idea behind uh, the problem statement. Any questions on this part before I move to next slide?
No, it's clear.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the evolution. I guess you guys probably have been experiencing this, but one thing I realized while exploring this area is that, the term AI operating system or agent operating system is currently, like I was saying, it is being used to describe several very different technical directions. Different parts of industry are approaching different layers of the problem space, which is why there is currently, so much fragmentation around the terminology. So one category focuses primarily on the. Give me 1 second. I think the slide is. Yeah, sorry, this one. I was on the wrong slide. Yeah, so basically, like there are different categories. So there is a broader category focused on. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah. So basically there are like different categories. So one category over here, which primarily focus on workflow orchestration and execution coordination. So systems like LangGraph, Crew AI, and similar frameworks are largely focused on connecting agents, tools, APIs, and workflows together in structured ways. So their primary goal is to enable execution and coordination across workflows. The other category, which is in the middle here, uh, is focusing on AI-aware runtime and kernel-style architectures. And this is what Hisham you shared with with me over the last couple of weeks. So a good example is this Rutgers AIOS work that you shared, where the operating system itself becomes AI aware and incorporates concepts like LLM-oriented scheduling, memory management, context management, and runtime coordination directly into an operating system like abstraction. So these systems are much closer to runtime and kernel architecture research layer, basically. Then comes the third category. This is basically also a category well known right now, which is focused on infrastructure and operating system optimization for AI workloads. And this includes GPU acceleration, inference optimization, AI-aware runtime, Linux kernel optimization, hardware acceleration techniques, and of course, these efforts primarily focus on improving the performance and execution efficiency of the AI workloads. So all of these directions are valuable and important. However, most important or most current approaches focus primarily on execution, orchestration, runtime management, scheduling, and performance optimization. So the area that I'm trying to explore is somewhat different. My focus is less on the execution itself and more on the introducing a distributed control and governance abstraction for enterprise agentic systems, which will be focused specifically around intent representation, capability discovery, policy and trust, confidence evaluation, observability, auditability, and governed coordination across heterogeneous execution environments. So rather than embedding AI into the operating system kernel itself or simply orchestrating workflows, I'm exploring whether enterprise agentic systems need a high level distributed control layer operating above existing execution ecosystem. Any questions on this one before I move on?
So, Anchor,
Uh-huh.
how what you described yesterday today different from the picture I put on WhatsApp yesterday, where we have a layer called AIOS on top of the kernel.
Correct.
So it's the same.
So I would see it this way, so basically, if you see this middle section, this diagram here, right, Hisham? So what you see, this part here, the right category, this is what basically fits into the bottom layer. Now, this whole thing here, the AIOS, what if I say the like these papers that you have shared, what they are describing, they're doing, they are focused on this section here, this part here, the AIOS runtime kernel and the OS kernel part, this middle section. But the part that I am focused on is a layer above. This is where it sits. So it will be at the application layer, but these are the three layers how I see it.
I I don't know how to show the one I showed in WhatsApp yesterday.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
let me see if I can pull that
Yeah.
one. Let me see, 1 second. Mm,
Um,
It is, let me share, I think this one here.
the last picture I showed. Yeah, exactly.
This one? Okay.
Yeah, this one. This is not from a paper. That is from me actually.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
because I wrote the paper about it, but I didn't distribute it. But in this paper,
mhm,
I showed this is a iOS system called the iOS
right.
kernel layer. You're right, which does the scheduling of tokens, for example,
Hmm.
right? As opposed to scheduling of processes, which is done by the kernel operating system. Are you that blue layer?
I would say that no, this it's definitely not part of this layer, but I would put that somewhere here, like right above
Got
this
it.
layer.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That explains it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
actually that is one of the thing which I wanted to build this first. I that's I'm calling what layer I'm building is or the idea behind is it's a control plane layer, but the eventually it will be best if this layer what I'm thinking that we should build works you know, closely with the kernel layer because then if we are talking about agents using different types of LLMs and there is different level of token consumption on every agent, then it's better that we also leverage the capabilities of agent scheduler, how much
exactly,
memory context we can use. So I think they will
exactly,
work very very complementary to each other.
exactly. So yours plus this one
Yeah,
is I understand. Like token scheduling, not process scheduling, is done
exactly.
by the kernel. What I call it here, kernel layer. But you are a complementary layer which make use of the services provided by this kernel. I got it now. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, and the thing why I feel that we still need this control plane layer that I'm building, this is incomplete without having this because eventually we are talking about like like how I would say like if you're running P2P4L on your system, and if you don't have a network card that can actually, support the P2P traffic, there is no point running a P2P4L on that system. So that's where, these two layers basically will work very complementary with each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yours is providing control over all those agents or distributed agents
Right,
using services provided, but what I call it here a kernel layer. You're right. Okay,
right.
good, good. I got it now.
Yeah. And there are only two layers where there is most of the focus right now, which you have perfectly put on your diagram, which is this layer and this layer. So there is absolutely these are the only two layers where there is most of the focus, or most of the companies are focusing on these two layers. There are very very rare, basically, who are focusing on the middle layer, basically.
Which is something completely different, Anchor, from
Yeah,
what people talk about it when they say uh, AI operating system, where they mean orchestration and team building and and the processes that people use to deliver code and deliver projects. Something
ex
completely different.
Hmm.
exactly. And one other thing I saw, I don't know if you guys are aware of this company called Vast Data. They are the storage company that provide their own storage solution for inferencing. What they have done is they have brought this layer and this layer together, and that's what they are calling like AIOS.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And some people they think what you call it control, maybe they call it orchestration. It is really
Yeah,
the nomenclature is confusing.
right.
Yeah. What I would add is so absolutely 100%. This is where there is actually a gap today. Also, players like Longchain, so are actually working on it. So 2 weeks ago, there was the Interrupt 26 event. I was part of it in San Francisco by Longchain, and actually they talked about that layer. And so they are growing their portfolio now significatively. And pretty much all I see here, maybe not as much on the agent scheduler, also depend what you talk about scheduler. They're actually building it. They have built it. So just have a look. I believe now, since yesterday, their video is available online. Search for it. It's called Interrupt 26 from Longchain. And it was the first session of the day. It's probably like, I don't know, an hour and something. Yeah. But yeah, this is one of the gap Now, long chain, long graph propose a solution, right? But it's not open source. In that case, it's part of the ecosystem that you would use for them. But it will give some good ideas about where the market is going in terms of direction.
Yeah, Gregory, that will be great. If you can send us a link,
Yeah,
we can definitely take a look.
mm, sure. Chat.
Yeah.
Boom. So maybe I should have said a few words about myself. I run AI R&D for Nokia IP network. And so this is typically the type of things I'm following. I'm more into AI ops for data centers, but this type of things I'm following because we build a lot based on long chain or prototype. So it's more for prototyping aspect of things. But AOS is also part of the things I'm looking at.
Oh, nice. Great.
Hey, Ankur, one question for you. So,
Yeah.
and pardon me for being, very naive in this. So the way you're thinking is that, let's say, for example, somebody wants to build an agent, would we install the agent on this operating system or this layer? Or, let's say I have a Linux box, so I need to do something else on top of that, or this would replace Linux. Like, how would I think about that?
Yeah, so there are two aspects to that, and actually that brings us to one of the next slides, which I would want to talk about. So what exists today, actually this will answer your question, Imam. Let me just go through this one. So uh, why this whole thing, this agent operating system, why do I think this makes sense? Right now, most of the focus, like I was saying, is either, if I go back to this diagram, I said there is a focus on this layer, and then there is this layer. Of course, this is what they call orchestration layer, and of course, this is a hardware layer. There is another layer where there is a lot of focus, which is the whole, protocol ecosystem right now. Agents, MCP, A2A, tools, APIs, all this. This is what I call an execution layer. No, and this is basically, all that infrastructure and everything. So right now, this is how it is happening. And what is happening is then these layers like LangGraph, Crew AI, all these orchestration engine comes and they sit on top of that, and they basically just, this is what the focus is right now. Now, the biggest problem I see how agents are designed right now is when you define and create an agent, you basically hard code in that agent using skills.md file that this is what you're supposed to do. And then your whole system, basically, now even for your agent, you tell this is what LLM you're going to use. So right now there is a lot of hard coding which is happening. The agents are basically told what they are supposed to do, and then the applications which call agents, when users they or applications they use agents, they have that very limited range of execution tools that are available to them. So there are a lot of things which are missing in this whole thing. What the idea behind is, now going back to your question, this is not just that agents are built in one company or in one organizations. Agents are built across the globe, and just for one particular task, there could be hundreds of agents right now globally available. Now, which agent, and there might be slightly different functionality. Like if I'm talking about video processing, some agents will be good at MP4 processing, some agents will be designed to uh, build, do some processing for another video format. So there are a lot of agents available. But right now, first thing which is missing is the discovery layer. So that's where, one of the things in this whole agent operating system control plane that we want to build is the capability discovery. This is where, when a user tells the system this is what I want to do, we have to be able to figure out, we don't have to really have all the agents run locally. We should just be able to discover, just like internet runs today. It's not like everything is on one data is in one data center. It is distributed across the globe. So same thing, capabilities doesn't have to be locally running on the same location. Capabilities can be anywhere. because we already have agent to agent protocol available, which basically helps to find and discover or identify what this agent's capability is. We just leverage that and build the capability discovery model on top of it. So that's where, to answer your question, agents doesn't have to run locally on that system. They can run anywhere. And this system, this control plane will basically just discover as long as the agents are discoverable, or you know, if they are within the same enterprise network, or if they are uh, discoverable outside of the network as well. So it doesn't matter. As long as they're discoverable, this will basically just discover those agents. The other gap, and which is the biggest gap I feel which is missing right now, when we talk about AI, it's all about NLP, it's all about intent. And a lot of times when we run these applications to talk to agents, those applications which are calling the agents are barely using NLP or intent based logic. So that is, like what we want user to provide. I'll give you a simple analogy. Like, a customer they're trying to build a house, and they will basically just reach out to a contractor and say that, I want to build a two-story house with a swimming pool in the backyard and, something in the front yard with two-car garage or something. Now, this is an intent. Now, that's it. Now, contractor is this agent operating system, which basically will now go and discover, there are a few things that a contractor will have to do. It will basically have to find the labor. Before even finding the labor, it will have to find out, like, do I have the tools? Do I have the blueprint? Do I have the labor? All of these. Now, when they go and find the labor, they will have to basically find out whether this labor is cost friendly, budget, friendly, or whether they're authorized to work in these locations. This is where authorization and authentication comes in picture. So, capability discovery basically it does all of that thing. So based on what user intent came. And then once we find out the tools, the labor, the blueprints, everything what we need to build the house, we basically then provide the guardrails that, okay, certain labor can work only certain location, if they're not authorized, they will not do. So all the policy trust, everything comes into picture. And then this is where the execution also happens. Once the execution happens, or we bring in all these layers like, MCP, A to A, basically we just start calling agents. And then once one cycle is done, that's where your confidence and auditability comes. Basically, once you run the whole cycle, you basically then run the confidence check using some scoring mechanism, and you figure out, if this is good as per, what was described, is it meeting the intent that the user described. So all of those things. If it doesn't, then we go again in basically to run the loop again, and it keeps on doing it until, the intent matches or the outcome matches the intent. So these are some gaps which, or I would say, like, in order to build this control plane, I see there are like 5 or 6 layers that basically are required to be built, and that will basically help us to better utilize the tools which are available and the infrastructure that is available. So this intent, capability discovery, policy, trust, especially these first three, and the confidence, they are totally missing. In fact, I'm part of that agentic AI foundation group as well. There are 7 working groups over there, and honestly, those 7 working groups are right now, the main charter that has been given to them is to figure out how do we even do this stuff. So this is basically the whole thing which is missing. Like, we are missing all these layers in the control plane, uh, and then basically to better utilize this stuff.
So, Ankur, these groups are part of which standard body or?
Those are part of the Linux Foundation, actually. This whole
Wow.
Yeah, so Linux Foundation recently in March they started a new project called Agentic AI Foundation, and they created 7 or 6 or 7 working groups just to focus on these different, like, identity, trust, uh, security, privacy, accuracy, reliability, different areas of how we can improve the agents, including observability.
But what you are proposing for AOS, Agent OS, is part of the work of any of these groups?
No, not right now. Not right
Oh,
now. This work was started way before that. So, in fact, when they came initially, Equinix, when I was in Equinix, so Equinix is a gold member there. So they reached out to gold members and platinum members to discuss, what are the areas we should explore. And since I joined it very early, so I gave them some areas to explore based on what I thought which is missing.
okay. Then how what you are proposing? Now I understand what you are doing. It is a layer above what I mentioned in my diagram,
Correct.
and they complement each other. But
Right.
the question now for you and maybe uh, Greg is how that is different from what Greg is talking about, uh, or
Yeah.
what long chain is talking about, because long chain also, to the best of my knowledge, I am not the expert here, but in the literature or when people talk about what long chain is doing, they also call it an operating system. Right, Greg? I think so.
Yeah, they are more like providing the tool for customer to build something. I think, and I might be wrong here, but I think the objective is more to say, hey, in the context of OCP, if we have, for example, AI ops, right, and we have multiple vendor contributing, you're gonna have MCP client that gonna MCP server gonna provide information about predictive analysis of failure of the optics. Another one's gonna be about the GPU, another one's going to be about inference or whatever it is, right? Or whatever type of vision it is. At the end, they all propose the service independently, but you may want to be able to orchestrate that. You may want to have that layer that basically says, hey, all right, I've got all these agents, right, that we have built across a big, large panel, but how we orchestrate all that, because it's probably going to be very difficult. So we need to create a standard way of operating all together. And I guess that's what you're trying to build here. Did I got it right?
Yes. Yeah. 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 I mean, in simple words, and you put it right exactly, Gregory. So just to further simplify this understanding, like, these what we have right now that helps us to answer this question, like how does the work get done, and most of these line graph and all these tools are helping us to get those things done in a better way, but that still doesn't answer these questions, like like based on intent, like what should happen, who should do it, can we trust it, and what happened and why. And this is not just within the boundaries of an enterprise or a system. This is at a global level. Like, we don't have to move the agents from or locally deploy them, but we should be able to discover and just run them wherever they are, whatever they
Okay.
are.
So, so along the chain, they have something called Lang graph,
Hmm.
Yes.
which is this is really an orchestration engine. Many people, when they talk about, when I meet in conferences, people talking about AIOS, they really talk about an orchestration engine or layer, which is in this case, the case of Lang graph, you handle complex autonomous agents, right?
Right.
Where
Yeah.
the relationship
Yeah.
between them is not just linear from this agent to that agent to that agent. It can be cyclic loops, for
Right.
example.
Yeah. You
And
basically create workflows there.
yeah, and exactly. And it sounds to me, Ankur, what you are doing. If I have agents in different locations in the globe,
Hmm.
this control layer can be sort of like the orchestration engine, which does the functions of the Lang graph in a Lang
Yes.
chain company.
Exactly. Yeah, so to give you another analogy here, so one of the things that at Equinix we were doing, just to tell you why it is also okay to call it orchestration system, because one of the things at Equinix we wanted to solve for customers was that, when customers come to Equinix, they are present in multiple clouds. They could have their workloads running in AWS, in Azure, in Google. Now, when they come to us, Equinix, since it was a cloud neutral company, we wanted to have a way for customers that you just give us your intent and we will do all the network connectivity, set up the AWS VPC, all of that for you, and we'll create the backend Equinix Fabric connectivity for you. So that whole orchestration, like customer just give us their credentials or access to those clouds, and we basically go and do everything on their behalf. Those kind of things is called it's an example of what LangGraph and other things are trying to solve for, the agentic systems.
So, so in nutshell, what you are proposing is similar to or includes LangChain orchestration engine,
Yes, yes,
something like that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Good, good. And Langsmith, which what Greg provided, Langsmith is like the debugger and monitor and provide observability, which what you presented.
Langsmith is a platform on cloud to which you connect that provide some of the service. So what Longchain is doing is they provide you the tool, but they also provide a software as a service, which is Longsmith. And let's imagine you want to build an agentic solution and you have built your prototype. You realize going from prototype to production is very complex. So how you get those layer of observability or evaluation of your
Exactly,
agents, of how you
exactly,
manage your context, so they provide all that for you. But if you want to
exactly.
create an open source solution, right, this is something you have to pay for. You have to recreate that environment. But what is interesting is Longchain, they lay out for you what seems to be really matter. And there is some topic like, for example, logging looks simple, but when you log agent communication, it's a huge scale. It's extremely complex to go back
right,
into it, evaluate the output, because each agent is extremely verbose, right? And some do 400 tool calls. And so when you have this sizing of logging information, how do you go to retrieve that information? How you do the right eval? And so they have hunted down a lot of the problem that you meet when you go into an agentic orchestration. And so this is one slide. There is a few, but it lays out interestingly the challenges that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, you're right. So LangChain, they have something at runtime, or it is all like, yeah, it's
Oh, I
observability
see
would be
your
runtime.
question.
Yeah.
So in essence, what happened? Let's imagine you do your code and you decide to use LangGraph to build. So LangChain, LangGraph, the same thing, right? It usually was LangChain and it's called LangGraph now. You build your code with LangGraph agents. And then at some point you say, hey, I want visibility, I want evaluation. Well, you just add into your code in Python those anchors, those hooks that's going to hook to the Longsmith platform, that's going to hook to some of the capabilities of LangGraph that will provide you the visibility, the logging, the context management, all kind of things if you want to. So that's the way they work. It's just like you introduce into your code those functions code.
So, so they provide uh, framework to build LLM applications and also can provide you tools for observability
Yeah, they provide
and,
everything
and
I'm sorry.
orchestration and
Yeah.
orchestration.
right.
Yeah, they provide everything. It's just like, this entire environment where you say, hey, now I want to scale out in production, the solution that was building in prototyping with long graph, and now I want to see in a real world, and they build everything you need so that it can run in a real world and in operation. And so they provide everything from the harness to the LLM selection. There's still a few things that are missing that they need to work on, if you ask me. But I think it gives interesting input. But what this is really this is very specific to an environment. Everything is long graph based, right? You have to code your agent in that way. You have to use our libraries. I think what you're looking at now is something more higher level, but you need those same function.
Oh,
Right. Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
That is
I
a bit,
mean,
it turns out it's a big topic, Anchor. That will
yeah.
be the beginning of many meetings to go in detail into all of this.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the whole idea here is to, what is happening, like Greg clearly explained, everything is happening, like all these different agents and their capabilities are being built in silos, like the how clouds basically started doing those things few years back. The whole idea is like, we need some way to discover these agents, like within, of course, this can be within site or one location or one system or one sovereign region. But we want to open up these capabilities, make them discoverable, use the intent, all that stuff, which is really missing to, best use this system.
Very good, very good.
But yeah, I think definitely, like you said, this is a much bigger topic, and it's something like it can go in a lot of different directions, a lot of different potentials we can build in this, especially the fact of leveraging this kernel layer capabilities into this framework is even LangGraph doesn't, or Lang's chain and all those, they currently are not leveraging those things. So that is another thing which I
Yes,
feel
you're
we
right.
should do.
Exactly, exactly.
I think memory context managers are really good at it, but they won't work they won't work at the inference level. So let's imagine that you want to go deeper and you want to go into LLMD, Dynamo, and you want to be able to do disaggregated inference, and you want to do a selection of KV cache. They will not go as low at that. They will
Yeah,
basically just use their inference stack, and they won't manage your inference stack. Here, what you propose is also visibility into the inference stack. And I can
right.
understand why for if you want to do, for example, governance, you may want that your European workload goes into a European GPU, right? And from a routing of inference standpoint, it has to stick there. It's probably something that you can do with Langlois, but you will have to build it. You will have to code it. It doesn't come natively, right? So I think you are going deeper into this layer. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, and also, like, the other thing I was saying, since these agents can be running anywhere, those agents currently, when they expose their capabilities, there is very limited information you get about agents, like, what capability, what are they supposed to do. But again, since they will be running in different locations, different systems, we can basically using modify or propose to modify those A2A protocol to expose some of the capabilities based on what systems they're running on and what inference infrastructure they're running on. And they can basically provide rate limiting, or some way of controlling the traffic, managing the traffic, what kind of inputs, or like all the semantics basically they can expose, but which is still not there right now, very limited.
Yeah, so I have a couple points on this one. So are you how are you thinking, like for example Hermes and OpenClaw was another kind of similar, but they may have people are running this in Mac Studio and things like that, right? That could
Mhm.
have multiple agents that do multiple things on the same system, right? So, so in that case, would we think about this kernel layer as, one that works for all, or here you were thinking like it would be, one agent per system that is optimized for that type of agent?
Um, I'm like processing the question. So basically, you're saying, in that localized environment where the agent is running on top of the local kernel layer, which is in that system. So your question is, are we running on, is there going to be just one agent taking care of everything, or like, is that the question, Imam?
But yeah, my question is that, sometimes you may run multiple agents on the same system, right?
Right.
And they may have different objectives that they're trying to meet.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, or just kind of something to think is that this kernel layer, will we optimize it for that? It's like, hey, by the way, if you're going to run agents, right? Any agent, one agent, 10 agents, you must
Mm-hmm.
use this because it gives you things that, your traditional, kernel that doesn't think about or give you. So you deploy this and then it makes it more seamless. Or is it for like, hey, for a kernel that does, or for an agent that does video processing, you have these tweaks. For an audio, agent, you do these tweaks, right? So that's a little bit different. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, I think there are multiple points you are mentioning here. So, like if I put your example, let's say you have multiple agents, and but we only have one kernel layer. So, one thought is, of course, the whole idea to have this kernel layer and use the agent scheduler token distribution or trafficking, token traffic distribution management, those things is definitely when there are multiple agents. So, based on, which agent is processing more tokens, and there might be one agent which was processing like millions of tokens in a like certain duration, while there could be another agent which is processing just maybe like few tokens, like maybe couple of tokens. So how do we sequence them? And of course, that's the whole idea of having this kernel layer is relevant only when there are multiple agents. But the other point that you mentioned, this kernel layer can process the tokens based on what type of tokens they are. Like, is it about the video content, or like, like categorization? So that is also a very good idea, actually.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think that there is, if you can go to the other slide that you were sharing, please.
Yeah, one second. Yes.
Okay, this one. So I think there are two separate layers, Ankur, the way I understand. So correct me if I'm wrong. One is that kernel layer, which is kind of,
Hmm.
more, I would say, closer to the infrastructure, right? Meaning
Right.
the operating system, all that stuff. And
Hmm.
then this one that you're recommending or kind of, talking about here on the right-hand side, it's more software control plane that provides you the ability to do things with that agent that's running on that operating system. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So one other item that perhaps we could think about is that, that this doesn't exist today, right? The
Hmm.
right, meaning there's no standard or anything. I
Right.
think the top, flow or layer here, there, I would say there are kind of standards like, yesterday NSA issued something for MCP in terms of cybersecurity. A2A is Google is pushing that. So these are kind of becoming standards, right?
Hmm.
So and then also bottom layer, the infrastructure is also standard here, right? Meaning
Right.
long time. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking there are two ways to do it. One is we can build these things on the right, and I don't know if that's what you're intending. The
Hmm.
second is we create a way that, we say that, hey, by the way, when you're building an agent, you should think about these things, right? From a governance perspective, which are like, these seven things, right? I think that should be, everybody should think about in that way. And
Hmm.
then would we, build like, shims that allow you to plug in, whatever solution that you have, right? Like say, for example, there's a company that does intent only or policy only, they provide solution. Would
Hmm.
you hook that in, or would you
Yes.
build, that policy and trust thing into the architecture here? Do you?
That's a really, really good point. And I would say yes, Imam. So like you said, there are different policy configuration that different companies would, or different users would want to use. So uh they can create their own policy logics. Of course, that will be configurable. Same thing, for example, for confidence evaluation. Let's say we provide certain algorithms or formulas or ways to calculate the confidence. But if based on the use case, if a company wants or user wants to have their own custom confidence scoring mechanism, they can put their own custom formula or logic in this one. So every box this can be customized.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, right, like Equinix, for example, or even I think Nokia at some point did it, or whoever, right? So these vendors, they have their own devices, right, in a
Yeah.
stack. So you could mix and match, right? You could say that auditability, I want to do it, policy trust, this, right? So I'm thinking for us to get most of the adoption, we want to give them flexibility, or people who want to use this flexibility to say that, okay, I can bring my own. I work with this company, they have a great one, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So then they can feel like it's custom to their thing, but it follows this framework that makes it robust in terms of their control plane thinking.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So the integration semantics will be standardized, but they can bring whatever tools they want to integrate.
I would like to mention something from a vendor point of view, right?
Mhm.
What's likely going to happen is that every vendor will come and say, "Hey, I've got this predictive analysis engine on the failure of optics, on the failure of hardware, on I'm going to have this MCP server on that, scaling or whatever information you want to do." So they're going to provide those services from MCP standpoint. But then what you do with that, right? There's tons of use cases. And there is ton of things that can be done. And so there's ton of agent that can be built to try to leverage those services to do something out of it. And what I know from what the best in the industry do today, and I hate to say it's probably Meta, the way they do things is that they have a platform that build agents. So let's imagine you're an employee and you say, "Hey, for my work personally, I need that type of information." And it's going to build the agent that's going to be persistent, that's going to do, exactly that, discover the capabilities, get sure it's aligned with the policies, get sure that, evaluate the first output and basically audit it and be able to log it, but he will have what he wants. So it's coming more like I want to be able to use the power of those services, MCP, even individually. And
Mhm.
so, as the role of my function, whether I do NetOps, AIOps, AI MLOps, or whatever it is, right? And so that's the part I'm missing here, which is probably where we see the use case being driven. Do we see it driven by flexibility from a usage standpoint, or do we see it driven by formalization for the vendors to get into a certain mode, but then for what specific use case? Because they're going to be a lot of. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm trying to process your point, but yeah, it definitely makes sense. So if I understand correctly, Greg, what you're saying is, what are the use cases for what kind of use cases are we looking for this kind of, AOS? Uh,
And how is it used? I'm saying everything, all the boxes.
mm,
Yes, it's a gap.
yeah.
I don't dispute that at all.
Mhm.
I'm with you 100% on that. The
Mhm.
question is how it's going to be used and how we want that to be used. Let's imagine your MLOps, your NetOps, your somebody doing working scalability issues, right? Or GPU compute and everything. Well, you have
Mhm.
all those services available from all these vendors, right?
Mhm.
All those MCP services. But every individual, every organization will have different needs, right?
Right.
And so as you build a framework that is going to be that middle layer, how do you serve them? You know, it has to
Mhm.
go beyond like purely like, hey, this is all your MCP server needs to be built and the information they need to provide. That's a kind of the easy part, right?
Right.
At the end is how you want to consume it, and that's what I think is missing
Right,
Probably
right.
it's a consumption part. It,
Yeah,
yeah.
So what?
you're right, right, definitely. And that is one area which I'm also still processing. I haven't, I don't have a good answer for that. But definitely, any thoughts, any inputs on that area. I mean, one of the things I was thinking was, like this can be a service-based con option, like a service like a SaaS or something which is available. Uh, or this could be something that enterprises can deploy locally within their environments and just work locally with their existing agents or tools, or if they can also, enable third-party agents or tools which we can discover, which the system can discover for them. So those are some thoughts which I have in my mind.
I think
I, I,
my perspective on the the kernel, right? The kernel piece that you had. I think that one is interesting because let's say there are some high performance agents or some whatever, right? So there may be some specific use cases where if let's say for example there was such a kernel today, right? The AOS layer today, we could say, hey, install this. It's a very light layer on top of Linux or whatever, and tune it for this type of workload, right? That I could see people kind of going and using that layer, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. I think I'm with Gregory on this one here. I think that right now individual vendors are building the right side of the,
Mm.
some pieces of it, not everything. So
Yeah.
that, but I think if we could help, companies or individuals kind of think in a way, right, that, hey, you should think about all these things and, provide them either, best practices or like some skeleton framework or something that kind of connects all this stuff together. I think
Hmm.
that may be more easier to use because if I'm, let's say, a policy or trust vendor or I do it myself, then I'm gonna, like, how am I going to include the other things in here, right?
Hmm.
uh like I may not be part of this, you know what I'm saying, like because I already,
Right.
so like we had to think about like how to integrate everybody so this becomes a standard that everybody is willing to take, right?
Hmm.
so I was thinking like it seems to be moving towards like more than an OS model to I don't know, but more like a Kubernetes for agent kind of model, right? Like where we have these different sorts of policies, plugins, which people can opt in, opt out, and like that probably we can like model the whole thing as a plugin. I don't know, but like it seems like this kind of flexibility and extensibility, the model seems like that orchestration model seems to be closer to what we are trying to do here. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the kernel part and all, which can again like Kubernetes can work with the particular like individual nodes to optimize for certain things and all, right? So we can do the kernel part that way. I'm just trying to think out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes I mean, like you said, right, Ankur, that nobody is thinking about that right now, right? Maybe people
Hmm.
are, but it's very siloed probably, right? So that
Hmm.
could be a place where, you know, you may get buy-in or we may get buy-in easier, right? Hey, we are optimized for X. Okay, that's
Hmm.
great. Or use this to optimize these types of workloads. And that's where maybe more tokens are used or whatever, you can cache it, whatever the the capabilities may be, right? So that could be something to do now, but that is, in my mind at least, that is very different from the control side, which is more like how am I managing my agents, what are they allowed to do, what are they doing, where are they located, so that's a very different type of thinking, right?
Right.
This is more management, that's more optimization of what your core capability is, right? So I think
Right.
there are two pieces, at least the way I see it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, this is definitely great feedback. And, those are the things, honestly, I thought like, because when I started thinking about this whole idea, like, I couldn't connect all the dots. So I think all of this information and help you guys or feedback you're giving is really, really helpful. So, Yeah, I think let me see. Uh, I think we are 6 minutes over time. So
Would you share the slide?
yeah, I'll send over these slides to this group. And the other thing is this meeting about this topic is once every month. Are you guys open to having this discussion more frequently? Like, because I think,
I uh, my take here, Anchor, based on the discussions we had today,
mhm.
we need this one every 2 weeks until we firm
Yeah,
and formalize what exactly we want to do.
right.
This is why I think let us continue this discussion for the next while, and then you can do this and you can do it once a month, and the observability one once a month.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. So I was thinking the same, Hisham. So yeah, let me set up this one on a bi-weekly basis, and I'll keep the observability, the time and sync causality one once a month at a different time slot. So
I,
Yeah,
I I think Ankur and Hesham, one thing that may be helpful also, at least my thinking is that, we can all, think about like, hey, what does the end state look like, right?
yeah,
The end state is that, hey, people are running specialized workloads, whatever the thing is, right, on this kernel, and they have the system that's SaaS or whatever that's providing them this, however we think, right? If we have a vision of what, that end state looks like, at least we can then split, the work streams or just our thought process in those buckets and then move towards it. Because I think that, right now everybody's running in all directions, just from based on my read on where everything is. People are still trying to come up with standards and
yeah,
guiding people towards a vision that, is the you know right thing in our opinion, would help them kind of visualize this, right? So maybe white papers and things like that, that CIOs or CISOs, whoever may be building it themselves also, right, they should be thinking about these as well, right? And that could be a reference material that everybody uses going forward.
yeah, absolutely. I think we did publish one paper already, which was the initial thought process. But definitely, like you said, Imam, the goal is to publish some white papers also to standardize this whole thinking. Because more than making this into productizing this idea, it is important to standardize this idea. So I definitely agree. I think we'll work on some papers together to publish them, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think
A couple more thoughts, right? Just before
yeah.
we drop. One is, I know you mentioned Linux Foundation, so maybe there should be maybe we can do some cross-pollination, right? In there
Hmm.
and here, so more people are thinking in the same direction. And then there's also CSA, which is Cloud Security Alliance.
Hmm.
They are, they have their own AI group now. That they are CSAI is where they are actually pushing the standards for AI. So maybe that's another place where we can, see if there is any synergy there. And then of
Right.
course NIST, right? So I think if we are like an independent pillar that comes up with our own, then there are like four different standards. So I think somehow we need to cross-pollinate also. Um, just a thought.
No, absolutely. And that was the reason intentionally I wanted to join Agentic AI Foundation. But I haven't brought up these ideas over there yet because they are in very, very early stages. Like, they're still figuring out what should be the charters for those working groups. And that's another thing, Hesham, probably you would know this better and can help me. How does if let's say we want to bring like Imam was saying, like cross-pollinate the ideas across OCP and Linux Foundation, uh, do we have any policies, constraints? Like I'm not sure how do we do that because they're both
that is what Cliff is working on.
okay.
Cliff is the guy who is working with Linux Foundation for this stuff. But I'm thinking actually you can bring to this meeting
Hmm.
somebody from long chain, yeah, long chain,
Hmm.
and maybe some people from other groups to talk about what they are doing. Yeah, I like the idea.
Okay.
Upgrade
Yeah.
external speakers.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Let me check with that, and I'll also check with James Kelly, like if there are any constraints, something that we should be worried about, like between OCP and Linux Foundation. So yeah, I'll check with him.
Yeah, exactly. Because Equinix is involved in this.
Yeah, yeah. Equinix. Oh, by the way, I don't know, Hisham, if I mentioned to you. So I moved to Oracle this week. So
Oh,
yeah, but still same. I think Oracle, Equinix, they're both part of the OCP and Agentic AI Foundation. So that's a good thing.
very good.
Yeah. Cool.
Great discussion, Ankur. Thank you. This is really helpful. And I don't know, Hisham, I'm going to meet Ankur next week so to see what other groups I should be a part of, but I would be happy to share my 2 cents.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye
Yeah,
all.
I'll set up the bi-weekly meeting. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.